Yeah, I'm not quite sure how he got clickbaited on this one, but today we're talking about John Felix's video on whether or not he owns a property, which he actually owns. And he's also quite well known to the police.
You're a lying, stupid, sovereign citizen piece of shit. How's it going, John?
So let's get started, because somehow, for some reason, because Mr. John owns a property that he bought for $19,000 right before the market plummeted, and because he thinks he should be able to exchange that plot of dirt that he spent $19,000 on for a car at a car dealership.
So I called up about 12 dealerships and I offered them my property as an even exchange for a Cadillac Elante.
Yet nobody wants that plot of dirt. And because John had to pay $153 in property taxes for an entire year of land taxes, it's very obvious that John must not truly be the owner of this plot of land, even though he doesn't have a loan on it.
You're not the owner of your house. You're not the owner of your property. If you have to pay somebody else for it, you're not the owner.
See, John makes the argument that he doesn't own his plot of land simply because he has to pay property taxes on it.
I bust their nuts because that's what government deserves.
Piece of shit. When you pull back out, please be careful. Go f your mother.
He even refers to the dictionary definition of what ownership is.
I'm not debating either. I'm just going by the dictionary.
But let's take a look at that for a second. Wikipedia suggests that ownership is the exclusive right and control. Merriam-Webster says that ownership is the legal right or title to something, and dictionary.com says you possess or control something. Now, let's look at what can John do with the property that he is so upset for having had to pay $153 on. So we know that John has to pay $153 in taxes to control this property for a year. But what does that allow him to do? That gives him the right to build on it, to sell it, to mow it or not mow it. He could make a garden if he wanted to, or not. He could also just collect recyclable bottles on it if he wanted to just do something basic like that. So to me, it seems like he's in control, but he seems to be upset for some other reason.
Nice boots.
I think the real reason he's upset is not because he has to pay $150 in property taxes.
Because you're stupid and you're a liar.
It's that he blames society for having told him that everybody should have bought land before the Great Recession.
Everyone back then, this was before the 2008 crash, they said, buy land, buy land.
So he bought his land for $19,000, and now today can't trade his land to a car dealer to try to pick up an $11,000 to $14,000 car. But look, people have arguments that don't make sense all of the time. I'm not so worried about the thought that John doesn't think he should have to pay taxes. What more bothers me is that he is sending a message to viewers, folks like y'all, that says, hey, you're being forced, you're being coerced to pay property taxes and you ain't getting anything. That's the message that he's transcribing. But wait a minute, let's look into this a little bit. As much as John is frustrated,
Stupid f.
it seems like he conveniently neglects to realize that he's got a beautiful new paved street, he's got sewage in the road in case he ever wanted to build and hook up to, the city coordinated for him to have access to water and power grid utilities, yet doesn't want to contribute $153 a year to help pay for these things. Doesn't want to contribute towards roads, doesn't want to contribute to schools or parks, because otherwise he'll be threatened and his property will be taken away. But let's look at the actual legal concept. When you buy a property, you receive disclosures that let you know when you buy this property, the first person that has the right to assess fees and payments against it is your tax assessor. And that's because they are helping make access to your property possible. They are helping make schools possible and utilities possible, or parks like this one possible. See folks, here's the thing. I'm all about giving you a different perspective, a different angle, a different look on what these things actually mean and how they matter. I get to sit on this railing at this public park because somebody is paid to make sure that the bolts are tight and safe. Somebody checks the benches and makes sure that all this is safe. As much as I don't like paying taxes, I do it because I know it provides a service for me. Do I disagree with some government expenditures? Sure, we could have debates about that all day long, but the point is, Let's do a little bit of perspective math. At $156 a year, to come up with $50,000 to pay somebody an annual salary of $38,000, a company vehicle or a county vehicle or whatever, insurances, payroll taxes, vacation time, general liability insurance, whatsoever, just to have one person go around and check to maintain all the parks for a year with a tiny salary of just $38,000 a year. It would take 326 Johns to pay for this one tiny service.
So let's just sit here and record them and let them know who actually pays their paychecks.
This doesn't even come close. It doesn't even scratch the surface of repaving the street or putting a sewer line in. Yet somehow John's 1 in 326th share of that sample little budget right there for one person to help at the city gives John the moral right, or the implicit right, to complain and to suggest that you don't own the property. Well, John, how's this for perspective? When you go to resell that property one day for $30,000, let's say, how about you give that $11,000 in gains over to the county?
If it's mine, why would I have to pay you? If I have to pay you, then it's not mine. It's yours.
How about that?
Because guess what? They own the property. You don't. See you around, John.
Dude, get out of here.
No, you're wrong.